quick question for you guys. Is anyone in this room popular? I'll raise my hand. I'm pretty popular. I'm pretty cool. What does it even mean to be popular? You know what I mean? Like, what does popularity mean? Is it to be liked by everyone? Is it to have a nice fancy house and afford all the luxurious things that you want? What does it mean to you? Maybe you have a different definition for everybody. Also, a little tidbit. I'm going to tell you guys, I'll be your shortest speaker all month. So, good. I can get this out of the way quickly for you guys. Don't worry. I won't be here for long. And so I think every older person in this room can tell you popularity means a whole lot less than you probably could ever imagine at this current moment in time. Okay? And yeah, that sounds like nothing coming from this guy you've never really spoken to. It sounds like absolutely nothing. I get it. When I was growing up, when I was in middle school, my question was, how do I get popular? I want to be one of the cool kids. Shoot, are my clothes nice enough? I got these new shoes, these Sperry's and everything. Am I socializing with everyone? Am I getting up? Hey man, how you doing today? Did I shake everyone's hand in the room today? How you doing, Chief? How you doing? It's good to see you here. I'm glad you made it. Did I socialize with everybody today? How am I fitting in? Am I fitting in at all? Is it even worth being popular? That's my question. And so we'll start out at Luke 9:25, and it simply states, "For what does a man profit if he gains the whole world and loses his soul?" You guys have all heard that one, right? If you've been to church twice, you've probably heard that one verse, Luke 9:25. And so at this point, I was starting to get into high school, and I finally got my license, and we out the house a little bit more. I'm with my friends on my own. And I remember I went to Conley. Does anyone go to Conley in here? Oh, turn up. Okay. And so at Conley, we would all go to Sonic after school. Do they still do that?
They get a cookout.
Is Cookout now? Oh, Cookout is live. Okay, I'll take Cookout. But we would all go to Sonic when I was still there. And every time I would roll up, I would see this group of the popular kids. They would be in their nice, at Conley they drove trucks. And so they had a nice new F-150, F-250 as a matter of fact, doing it extra big. And so I'd see all these kids across the parkway sitting in their truck, and to me they looked really bored. Like these were the people I spent half a lifetime almost looking up to and trying to figure out how to get to their position. And every time I saw them, they looked bored out of their minds. It looked terrible, okay? And that was where I really started to wonder, what's the purpose? What's the point in all of this? Why would you want people to like you that much if that's what it causes you to do? Because you start to become worried, well, what do people think of you? Okay? And these same people that I thought were the coolest people in the world were the same people that couldn't get off their phone because they needed 5 more likes to get to 200. Does that make sense? Does that resonate a little bit? Because they couldn't get over the idea that they needed to be liked. They needed that little heart on their photo. That's what mattered to them. Is that what matters to you? Is that what you want to matter to you? That little social media bubble popping up on your phone every couple of minutes? And to be so concerned with the thoughts of what other people think of us, and we spend our entire lives trapped in that mindset. Have you guys ever heard of the saying, keeping up with the Joneses? Anyone ever heard that? Alright, so, keeping up with the Joneses, if you haven't heard, it's what your English teacher would call an idiom. Okay? You guys know what an idiom is?
Yes.
You do? Okay, well I had to Google what an idiom was because I did not know. So, an idiom is defined as a group of words established by usage as having meaning. Okay? An example of an idiom would be something like cold feet. No, your feet aren't really cold. You just got nervous before the dance and you stayed home to watch Mandalorian. We know. It's okay. I would too. I understand. But why miss the dance? We're trying to keep up with the Joneses. That's the goal here, okay? So keeping up with the Joneses, it's an idiom that refers to the comparison of one's neighbor as a benchmark for social class or the accumulation of material goods. So did you guys catch that? It's a popularity contest. That's all it means. Okay? People spend their entire lives wrapped in a popularity contest with their next door neighbor. When I was a kid, my next door neighbor had an Xbox 360, and I would go over there as often as I could just so I could play that thing. I didn't want to be like him. I just wanted to play his Xbox. I'll be honest. I had a PlayStation, so I didn't get the opportunity to play games like Halo. So I would go over to his house. And so you get caught up in this comparing oneself to one's neighbor, and so it's like, who has the biggest garage? Who has the biggest lawn? This is a real thing people, like adults, think about. This is a real thing that adults think about in the real world. I guarantee your parents have probably thought about it at some point. Okay? Is my garage big enough? Is my lawn clean enough? Is it nice and short? Who has the most expensive house in the neighborhood? Is this starting to sound like church to anyone? Yeah. Just curious? We spend like the entire worship set looking around to make sure anyone is raising their hands at all. We do our absolute best to fit in and to not stick out from the crowd. Why are we so concerned about what the congregation is doing that we can't even focus on God anymore? That's what's being lost in the translation here. The entire message is being lost by the time it hits the congregation, because the congregation will be so caught up in what everyone else is doing. And it almost brings us to the question of, we want to know who in here is sinning the worst. So then I know I'm not that terrible of a person. Okay? And we all have these thoughts, guys, like, I struggle. I think that's a pretty given one. Brandon has things he struggles with. Yeah. Lauren has things she struggles with. I'm sure you guys all have things you struggle with. That's okay. That's normal in a Christian life. We're supposed to struggle. It's not all going to be peaches and cream all the time. And so we want to be redeemed of God, but we can't seem to walk away from the crowd. We've become so obsessed with what others think, We've become so obsessed with what others think of us, we've forgotten what God thinks of us, and choose instead to focus on everything around us. Now I'm going to transition over to Matthew 10 and 33. Jesus states, "But whoever denies me before man, I will also deny before my Father in heaven." So if I can't worship in front of the friends I have at my own church, what makes me think that God would be willing to accept me into the gates of heaven? I couldn't even raise my hands up because my best friend from school was at my church today. And pretty much every time I speak to anyone or any group of people, I feel like I go to this story, and it's one of my favorites in the Bible. But it's about the adulterous woman, and I think I spoke to you guys a little bit about it last time. But you probably don't realize this started out as a trap for Jesus. They wanted to catch him to see if Jesus would say, "Let her go," therefore breaking the law of Moses at the time. Or if he said, "Go ahead, execute her for the crime of adultery," because then Jesus would seem pretty harsh and perhaps cruel to be the first one to cast a stone, and seem like an unjust God almost. And so here's the story real fast if you don't know what's going on. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. The teachers of the law and Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. And the law of Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. And Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. Did you catch that? These people just brought this random woman into Jesus. And they're like, "God, check it! She's sinning, God! Look at her! You need to do something about this woman, okay?" And Jesus, the Son of God, quite literally goes, and he turns his back on them. And he just goes back to exactly what he was doing. Like they didn't say a word at all. And he started to ignore them. He starts to write on the ground with his finger, and they question him again. And so at this point, they're screaming at Jesus like, "Hey, what do we do with her? She's no good." And Jesus finally gets annoyed enough, and I feel like he finally just like puts all his stuff down. And he gets ready and he says, "Let any one of you who's without sin go ahead, cast the first stone." Do it. Are any of us without sin? No. Not a single one. And at this, those who heard began to go away one at a time. The older ones first, younger ones following, until only Jesus was left with the woman. And Jesus straightened her up and he asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Then neither do I condemn you. Go now and leave your life of sin." And just like that, the moment is completely over. These people went out of their way to catch a woman in the act of sinning, and then they brought not the man, just the woman, to the Son of God in a bid to see what would happen. That's what was going on here. They wanted to know, would Jesus cast the first stone? And the answer is obviously no. And when they all end up leaving almost disappointed that they didn't catch the opportunity to see this woman being quite literally stoned alive for committing a sin, they leave with a sense of disheartening, you know? Because they know they've done wrong. They know they couldn't cast a stone. They couldn't cast a single one. They just didn't get caught while they were sinning. That's the only difference. God didn't put us on this earth to be soldiers for sin, searching far and wide for anyone that goes against God's will. We're here to be the salt and the light. He didn't put us on this earth to look down on anyone else. He didn't put us on this earth to be the most popular person in school. That brings me to Galatians 1:10, and it's Paul speaking to the church of Galatia. And he says, "Obviously, I'm not trying to win the approval of people, but of God. If pleasing people were my goal, I would not be Christ's servant." He's basically saying, if I were a people pleaser, I wouldn't be here. I'm not here to make everyone happy. I'm here to preach the message of my Father. And I say all of this to simply ask yourself, would your own friends know who you were? Do they think you were a good Christian? Would they even know you were a Christian? Would they know I was a Christian? What would they think? And that thought process right there, that serves nobody but man. That's the craziest part. That thought process of asking yourself, what would my friends think, only serves the objective of man. We serve a God so much larger than that. Did your best friend put breath in your lungs this morning? No. Unless they were doing some serious CPR. No. Okay? They didn't. Did your boys in the squad draw the sky and the stars? No, they didn't. They might be helping you out on the football field. They did not draw the sky and stars. Did your BFF die on a cross for you? So why are you looking at them for approval? It's just that simple. And this brings us all the way back to Luke 9 and 25 where we started, and we'll continue on to verse 26 as well. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world and yet lose or forfeit their very soul? Whoever is ashamed of me and my words, the Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his glory and in the glory of the Father and the holy angels. And so shine, guys. You have to shine. You have to let your light shine. Okay? I saw something a couple days ago. And don't worry, I'm closing soon, guys. I told you it'd be fairly short. I ain't gonna keep you sitting down for long. And I saw something a couple days ago that simply said, God has a tendency of picking up a nobody to become a somebody in front of everybody and asking nobody. He doesn't need your approval. So let your light shine. People will know your faith whether you choose to show them or not.